Good morning, America. Venezuela's president, Nicolas Maduro, arrives in New York in handcuffs to face narco-terrorism conspiracy charges just hours after that extraordinary mission to capture him in the middle of the night. The daring plan, months in the making, executed by elite American military forces. The ousted president, now an ordinary criminal defendant in the United States.
President Trump watching it all unfold from Mar-a-Lago, now saying the United States will take control.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition.
But the country taking steps overnight to put its vice president in charge.
And while there's dancing in the streets in Caracas, there's also condemnation and concern for the future. Celebrations and protests breaking out in the U.S. as well as around the world. Those happy to see the regime toppled, others calling the move an act of imperialism.
GMA looking at all the angles of this unfolding story, the meticulous planning to pull off the mission and capture Maduro, and the risks it took to make it happen. What's next for Venezuela and the challenges ahead for the country, plus how this could all affect gas prices.
Live from ABC News headquarters in New York City, this is Good Morning America.
And we do say Good Morning America on this Sunday, and what a 24 hours it's been. Just a day after the U.S. strike in Venezuela, ousted President Nicolas Maduro is in federal jail here in Manhattan this morning, facing drug and conspiracy charges.
The U.S. Special Forces raid shocking the world and leaving Venezuela in chaos and confusion. A dictator gone in a flash, and hours later, the leader of the United States saying the U.S. will run the country and tap its enormous oil reserves.
And we have team coverage on these stunning developments this morning. We begin with the latest on Maduro's arrival in the U.S. and the new details we've learned overnight on the daring U.S. raid leading to the arrest of Maduro and his wife. ABC News senior political correspondent Rachel Scott joins us from the White House. Rachel, good morning.
Wait, good morning to you, and it has been an extraordinary 24 hours. This morning, Nicolas Maduro and his wife waking up in U.S. custody behind bars. It was a dramatic operation that unfolded under the cover of darkness. But this morning, there are even more questions as President Trump is now vowing that the U.S. will take control of Venezuela and is not ruling out U.S. troops on the ground. Overnight, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife touching down on U.S. soil surrounded by federal agents. ABC News obtaining these images showing the ousted leader handcuffed on the tarmac in New York, dressed in a blue sweatshirt, sandals, and a black beanie, flanked by DEA agents. Just hours after being captured and removed by American forces. It capped off a dramatic military operation that ended with President Trump declaring the U.S. will now run Venezuela and seize control of its oil reserves, vowing to take a, quote, tremendous amount of wealth out of the ground.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years.
The president offered few details on how exactly the U.S. will take charge, telling our Selena Wang the team behind him, key members of his cabinet, will take the lead.
It's largely going to be, for a period of time, the people that are standing right behind me. We're going to be running it. Venezuela has a lot of bad people in there, a lot of bad people that shouldn't be leading. We're not going to take a chance that one of those people take over for Maduro.
But the president, who campaigns on keeping America out of foreign conflict, did not rule out sending in U.S. troops.
We're not afraid of it. We don't mind saying it. But we're going to make sure that that country is run properly. We're not doing this in vain.
The capture, known as Operation Absolute Resolve, came after months of planning, gathering intelligence to understand how Maduro moved, from how he lived to what he wore and ate. The president giving the green light at 10:46 p.m. Eastern on Friday, with this message to U.S. forces and intel agencies: good luck and Godspeed.
We think, we develop, we train, we rehearse, we debrief, we rehearse again and again, not to get it right, but to ensure that we cannot get it wrong.
More than 150 U.S. aircrafts launching from 20 different bases across the Western Hemisphere under the cover of darkness. The president and his national security team watching from Mar-a-Lago. Videos circulating online showing explosions near a Venezuelan military base in port as U.S. helicopters arrived in Caracas around 2 a.m. local time Saturday morning, where they faced heavy gunfire. The president says Maduro tried to get to a safe room.
He was trying to get into a safe place. You know what a safe place is, all steel. And he wasn't able to make it to the door because our guys were so fast.
U.S. forces capturing Maduro and his wife from his own country, taken to the USS Iwo Jima. President Trump posting this picture of Maduro on board.
Nicolas Maduro had multiple opportunities to avoid this. He was provided multiple very, very, very generous offers and chose instead to act like a wild man.
Back home, members of Congress caught off guard, only notified after the operation began. Some this morning questioning the legality. But President Trump standing by the operation, saying Maduro's capture should serve as a warning to the rest of the world.
But I will never allow terrorists and criminals to operate with impunity against the United States. This extremely successful operation should serve as warning to anyone who would threaten American sovereignty or endanger American lives.
President Trump says no American lives were lost. The president also says that Maduro's vice president will now serve as the country's interim leader. But again, there are still these big questions on what exactly comes next, including how the U.S. plans to take control of Venezuela and whether or not we will see American troops on the ground, Janae.
So many questions still remaining. Rachel Scott, our thanks to you. Now let's bring in ABC Chief Global Affairs Correspondent Martha Raddatz to get some more perspective on all of this. Martha, thank you for being with us again this morning. As Rachel said, President Trump said that the U.S. will run Venezuela. What are your sources saying about how the White House plans to do that?
Well, there doesn't seem to be an actual plan that they've made public at all about how that will be done. He talked about the people standing behind him, that they will run the country. That was Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, and Marco Rubio, Secretary of State. But this is a country of 30 million people. And while many, many people celebrated, there are some who are not celebrating, and that includes the interim president who called what is being done to Venezuela a barbarity. Now, President Trump made clear he wants the new president or the new administration there to follow what he wants to do with that country. That is the huge question now. I don't think the administration really wants to send in military forces, but perhaps they leave those forces outside of that country in the area as they have. We have 15,000 troops down there now. But the president also made that threat that if they do not go along with his plan and how he wants the country run, the U.S. could go in for a second strike or do exactly what they did with Maduro. So I do think, Janae, we're in a very risky period about what happens next and how that country, how Delcy Rodriguez, the new interim president, responds to all of this and the U.S. efforts, Janae.
Yes, because while Maduro is here in the U.S., his regime still very much in place. Martha, we're also learning that this mission was planned for months, that CIA was there in Venezuela since August. What have you learned about the preparation and the execution of all of this?
It was really an incredible operation, and as far as we can tell, a flawless operation, because they did extract Maduro and his wife, which was their intent. But there were lots of people involved in this for months and months. The CIA, as you said, they had a team on the ground looking at Maduro for these months, watching his pattern of life, where he went, who was surrounding him. And they certainly had assets on the ground helping them out, according to people we have talked to, helping them out, helping them spot Maduro, figuring out exactly where he was, that he moved around a bit and slept in different places, and they waited for him to be in this particular compound before they went in, because that's what they had rehearsed. Janae?
So many variables, but as you said, it appears to have been executed flawlessly. Martha Raddatz, our thanks to you. Whit.
Janae, now let's turn to break down the charges against Maduro and what we know about his political career in Venezuela. ABC News Chief Investigative Correspondent Aaron Katersky is at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, where Maduro is being held right now. Aaron, good morning.
And good morning to you, Whit. After that dramatic capture from a fortified compound in Caracas, Nicolas Maduro is waking up at this decrepit federal jail in Brooklyn. His life as an ordinary criminal defendant in the United States is going to be rather mundane. The circumstances of how he got here are anything but. This morning, Nicolas Maduro is behind bars, arriving in New York aboard a government plane that touched down hours after he and his wife surrendered to U.S. Special Forces.
At its core, this was an arrest of 2 indicted fugitives of American justice, and the Department of War supported the Department of Justice in that job.
They were taken to the USS Iwo Jima, President Trump posting this image of Maduro aboard the ship, blindfolded, restrained, and wearing gray sweatpants. From there, a stop at the U.S. Naval Base in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, before the flight to Stewart Air National Guard Base, where Maduro descended the steps at sunset, surrounded by federal agents. Maduro flew by helicopter to Manhattan, where he, his wife, and 4 others are charged with narco-terrorism conspiracy, conspiracy to import cocaine, and possession of machine guns. The indictment said Maduro is at the forefront of a violent, corrupt 25-year conspiracy to flood the United States with cocaine. Prosecutors said he enriched himself, corrupted his country, and partnered with some of the most violent and prolific drug traffickers and narco-terrorists in the world. Maduro has previously denied involvement with drug trafficking, accusing the U.S. of using the war on drugs as a bid to remove him and seize Venezuela's vast oil reserves. In a final interview filmed with state television just 3 days before he was captured, Maduro saying the U.S. government knows that if they want to seriously discuss an agreement to combat drug trafficking, we're ready. Maduro took power in 2013 after the death of Hugo Chavez. Federal prosecutors said, like Chavez, Maduro participates in, perpetuates, and protects a culture of corruption in which powerful Venezuelan elites enrich themselves through drug trafficking. Maduro was not the first foreign leader to face drug charges in the United States. In 1989, President George H.W. Bush sent the military into Panama to oust Manuel Noriega, who surrendered and was convicted of drug trafficking, money laundering, and racketeering. And former Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez was convicted of drug trafficking in 2024. President Trump pardoned him in November. Now Maduro and his wife Celia Flores are preparing for their first appearance in Manhattan federal court. And that initial court appearance could occur as soon as Monday, Gio. For the foreseeable future, Maduro is going to remain in this jail where Luigi Mangione is awaiting his trial, where Sam Bankman-Fried, Sean Combs, and Ghislaine Maxwell have all spent time and have all complained about the conditions inside. Gio?
A stunning journey from Caracas to New York. Aaron Katersky, thank you so much. Now we turn to what we know about the situation on the ground in Venezuela this morning. And ABC's Matt Rivers joins us now from neighboring Bogota, Colombia. Matt, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Gio. There is no question that things are very tense inside of Venezuela, if only because that entire country is waiting to see what is going to happen next and who will govern. We have seen some video come out of relatively small pro-Maduro protests across the country, but that is certainly not the overall feeling across the country at this point. Streets largely quiet for now. Many people I have spoken to personally inside the country over the last 24 hours describe 2 things. One, a sense of relief and happiness that Maduro is now gone, but also a sense of worry about what is to come after President Trump's announcement that the United States is going to, quote, run the country there, without giving any real specifics as to what that means. For now, Vice President Delcy Rodriguez is calling for Maduro's release, Gio, but President Trump said that she has at least signaled to him a willingness to cooperate with the U.S.
And Matt, what's the reaction right now in Latin America and around the world?
Mixed reaction around the world, as you might imagine. Left-leaning governments like where I am in Colombia, Cuba, Mexico, all condemning U.S. action. We've also seen small-scale protests pop up around major European cities. For example, in Paris, we saw people taking to the streets burning the American flag, as well as in other major European cities. But, you know, the U.S. also finds overwhelming support for its actions here in the millions of refugees that have fled Venezuela in recent years. These are refugees around the world celebrating openly in places like Miami, Santiago, Madrid. And as for the Venezuelans who are still inside, Gio, many just waiting anxiously for any further guidance as to what's to come moving forward.
And Matt, we know that thousands of travelers were affected after the FAA ordered commercial planes to avoid parts of the region on Saturday. It triggered hundreds of flight cancellations. I know you have an update now.
Yeah, so overnight, those restrictions were lifted, so that situation could get significantly better today. It should get better, especially as we know certain airlines like American, United, Southwest, all adding flights to make up for those flights that were lost yesterday, Gio.
All right, Matt Rivers there in Bogota. Matt, thank you so much. Whit.
Gio, let's bring in ABC News contributor Colonel Steve Ganyard, a former Marine and former State Department official. Steve, it's always great to have you. I want to first ask you about the volatility first in the situation in Venezuela right now. People aren't sure who's in charge. How long can this go on?
Go on for a very long time, Whit, and this is the concern that the administration has. Obviously, they remember the problems that we had in Iraq with the de-Baathification program that led to such chaos in Iraqi society. So the trick here will be to not disturb the underlying structure of Venezuelan society, to find somebody that will come in, provide just enough stability to lead to what hopefully will be free and fair elections.
So what are the options for the U.S. military if Venezuela's interim leadership doesn't go along with the administration's plan? We're already seeing pushback.
It'll probably just be continuing what the U.S. was doing before, and that is this quarantine, the oil quarantine, cutting down on the drug trade. But with the military structure that's in place, was designed to do just what it has been doing, and that is the quarantine, catching drug runners, and to do the raid that we saw yesterday. But it is not a force that is designed to put boots on the ground. Those options at this point are very, very limited.
Yeah, and President Trump did not rule that out either going forward. Russia, Iran, they're condemning the U.S. attack. Chinese diplomats were reportedly meeting with Maduro in Caracas just hours before the strikes. What are the international ramifications from this?
Yeah, the president alluded to it yesterday, and it's the Monroe Doctrine. It's the extension of the Monroe Doctrine and re-emphasizing security in the Western Hemisphere. So for the Chinese, they'll get their oil, but they probably won't get the 30% discount they've been getting. Iran won't get the cocaine, and Hezbollah won't get the cocaine they've been asking for. The Russians will not be able to run their ships, their ghost fleet, with oil and run sanctions. But the real second shoe here to drop is going to be Cuba, Whit. What we need to look at is a country that still relies for about 50% of its oil reserves, has an economy that is on the rocks. So you take that 50% away, and we need to watch Cuba very, very closely because they are on the ragged edge of collapse.
Yes, a potential ripple effect to monitor. Steve Ganyard, as always, thank you. Janae?
All right, let's see how this is all playing out on Capitol Hill. ABC's Jay O'Brien joins us from Washington. Jay, good morning. There are so many questions not only about the legality and rationale behind the mission, but what comes next.
Yeah, good morning, Janae. Urgent questions on both sides of the aisle this morning about the administration's plan, particularly for the future of Venezuela. Democratic leaders this morning demanding an immediate briefing. One Republican, Kansas Senator Jerry Moran, telling ABC News President Trump has to be, quote, very cautious about the precedent this action may set, noting the rest of the world is watching. Both Democrats and Republicans making it clear there's no love lost for Maduro, but still some scrutinizing the way this operation was conducted. Kentucky Republican Senator Rand Paul, often a critic of Trump's use of military force, expressing concern that Congress did not authorize this military action in Venezuela. The Trump administration is signaling this morning they believe they acted within their powers, in part because this was, officials argue, a law enforcement operation to capture what it says were wanted fugitives, Maduro and his wife, despite the fact that the military, of course, was integral to this mission. One person in the president's party with the sharpest criticism this morning, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Her last day in Congress is tomorrow. She's resigning amid a falling out with President Trump. She posted about the president's actions in Venezuela, quote, this is what many in MAGA thought they voted to end. Boy, were they wrong. Gio.
A debate that is sure to continue. Jay O'Brien, thank you so much. And of course, Venezuela has enormous oil reserves. So the U.S. attack immediately raises questions about what this could mean for gas prices here at home. And ABC's Elizabeth Schulze joins us with this side of the story. Elizabeth, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Gio. Venezuela sits on the largest supply of oil reserves in the world, and President Trump says that big U.S. oil companies will now invest billions to fix its badly broken oil infrastructure. Chevron is the only American oil company that currently operates in Venezuela, and oil executives, U.S. officials, aren't yet laying out specifics of how this will work. Venezuela's oil supply has been crippled for decades by sanctions and mismanagement. So right now, the country only accounts for about 1% of global production. And at this moment in the global oil market, there is already more supply than demand. That has helped push gas prices near a 5-year low. The average price for a gallon of gas in the U.S. now $2.81. Now, the oil market doesn't open for trading until 6 p.m. Eastern tonight, so we'll see more then on the immediate direction of prices. The bottom line, as one longtime energy analyst told me, the bones of a powerhouse oil industry are there in Venezuela, but it could take years to build them back up. Gio.
That is true. All right, Elizabeth Schulze, thank you so much. And tune into ABC's This Week Later. George Stephanopoulos speaks with Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer about President Trump's announcement that the U.S. will run Venezuela after the capture of President Nicolas Maduro.
With the world reaction to the U.S. mission to remove Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro from power and plans to run the country for now. ABC's James Longman just arriving in neighboring Bogota, Colombia this morning with more. Good morning, James.
Hi, Janae. Yeah, there's been a mix of support and condemnation from leaders around the world. I think a profound sense of shock that this could have happened and that the international rules-based world order has been upended in this way. Here in Latin America, neighboring countries to Venezuela have pretty much roundly condemned this operation, calling on the United Nations to meet, with the possible exception of Argentina, whose leadership is quite close with Donald Trump. There have been protests here in Colombia outside the U.S. Embassy, protests in Buenos Aires, one sign reading, Trump, oil is your drug. So I think there's real concern here in Latin America about what America's motivations might be here. As you would imagine, for Maduro, the former Maduro regime's allies in Iran, China and Russia, they have completely condemned this, calling this a flagrant breach of international law. But America's allies in Europe have been more circumspect. They've not wanted to criticize the operation out of hand. They prefer to stay on the right side, perhaps, of Donald Trump. They say simply that Maduro will not be missed. But the hands-off Venezuela protest movement, that is gathering momentum around the world, from Paris to Rome, Madrid and Barcelona. People really concerned about what it means when the United States says they want to run Venezuela, and of course for the millions of Venezuelans now wondering what happens next. Whit.
All right, James Longman, our thanks to you this morning. We appreciate it. Let's bring in ABC News contributor, retired U.S. Army Lieutenant General Doug Lute, who served in the White House and later as U.S. Ambassador to NATO. General Lute, thanks again for joining us. So President Trump, as we pointed out there, says the U.S. will temporarily run Venezuela until we can do, quote, a safe and proper and judicious transition. What does that actually look like from a military perspective, and what are the challenges?
Well, I think this points to the fact, the reality, that we have a change of leaders in Venezuela, but not a change in regimes. So Maduro is gone, he's in New York, but his team, his regime remains in place. And are these leaders interested in giving up their power, as a transition suggests? And beyond that, are the people of Venezuela really interested in the U.S., quote unquote, running their country? So a lot of questions here.
So many questions. And General Lute, the military operation to capture President Maduro and his wife, it was highly detailed, took months of planning. We're learning CIA was on the ground in August. They knew details down to what pets he had. What stuck out to you from what we're learning about the extensive planning?
Well, you're right. This is an impressive military operation. And Matt, in fact, perhaps unmatched in the world in terms of military capability. And it's a good thing that the United States has that kind of capability. In particular, in this case, I was struck by the integration, the combination of all the tools. So intelligence alongside air, sea, land, and space assets, all brought together at the right time and at the right place to have the effect, the capturing of Maduro that was intended. But while military capabilities alone can deliver Maduro to New York, military capabilities alone cannot deliver success in Venezuela. They'll have to combine military capabilities with diplomatic, economic, information capabilities as well. And it's not clear that those elements of what follows, that those elements of the team are in place.
Lieutenant General, talk to us about the strategic backdrop of this operation. President Trump said this, that the U.S. built Venezuela's oil industry with American talent, drive, and skill, and the socialist regime stole it from us.
Well, look, it's clear that oil is a significant part of the strategic backdrop, with Venezuela holding the largest global reserves of oil above all, right? So oil is a big part of this, but it's not the only part. I think even more strategic is the Trump administration's declared objective to dominate the Western Hemisphere. And there's no more clear example of that than this raid just yesterday. It's clear that Trump intends to control, to have a heavy hand in the Western Hemisphere. And he's just demonstrated that. So for all of us who are watching carefully maps, here's a map of Ukraine. It's time for us to change our maps and pay more attention to the Western Hemisphere.
Lieutenant General Doug Lute, thank you so much for your incredible insight. We so appreciate it this morning.
Coming up on Good Morning America, an 8-year-old boy who fell into an icy pond comes face to face with the officers who pulled him to safety in a dramatic rescue. See the emotional moment next.
Welcome back to GMA. As the kickoff for the final week of the regular season, a tough loss for Witt's 49ers. He said it was brutal. Yep. Seattle takes down San Francisco 13-3, meaning the NFC road to Super Bowl 60 runs through the Seahawks for the first time since 2014. Sorry about that, bud. Meanwhile, Baker Mayfield and the Bucs beat the Panthers 16-14 to stay alive in the NFC South race. And today, high-stakes matchups continue as teams fight for a playoff spot. Joining us now, ESPN football analyst and our dear friend, Coach Herm Edwards. Great to have you. Great to see you, Coach. Looks like you're ready to get into it.
I'm ready. I feel bad for Witt.
Yeah.
The family was at the game yesterday.
Oh.
They're feeling the same pain you're feeling right now.
Yeah, I stayed up late, had to go to bed eventually. It was just rough.
Broken
But we're still in the
heart.
playoffs. Still in the playoffs.
There you go. Still some hope alive.
Yeah.
All right, Coach. So let's start with the Steelers and Ravens. This is a true winner-takes-all matchup for the AFC North. What's the key for either team to secure the home playoff game?
Well, for the Ravens, it's Lamar Jackson. He's back. He's got to be a special player. In other words, not throwing the ball. He's got to make some plays with his legs. He's got to extend the play. That becomes the problem. It's not just about Derrick Henry running the football. It's about Lamar Jackson making the unannounced play with his legs. On the flip side of it, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, the question I have is, what receiver will get open for Aaron Rodgers? No DK Metcalf again, and you watched this offense struggle last week, throwing the football down the field. The receivers could not get away from the coverage of the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Cleveland Browns are very good, but they got to find a way to generate some plays in the passing game.
All right, Coach, so the Jaguars can clinch the AFC South with a win or a tie. So, Herm, what do you expect from Trevor Lawrence and this offense in such a high-stakes situation against the Titans?
Well, Trevor Lawrence is finally living up to his potential, and I think coaching matters, obviously. He is playing outstanding. Throwing the ball well, but this is what he's done better. They told him, you need to run a little bit more. And he's a big athletic guy. Remember, this guy's, he's big like Josh Allen. Look, he takes hits like that. He stays in the pocket. He is having a fantastic year. And this Jaguar team is hard to deal with now. They are playing really good.
Yeah, they are. Let's turn to another interesting one here. The Saints against the Falcons. This game could swing the NFC South title. So which team do you think has the edge?
Well, I flipped a coin this morning on SportsCenter. I have no idea. It's just kind of a coin flip for me. I guess the team that really can protect the ball, this could be a turnover game. So I think the team that protects the ball will win this football game. This is a hard one for me to look at. I don't think I'll watch this one a whole lot. There's some other games I'm going to probably watch.
We love your honesty.
The complete honesty. Flipped a coin. Coach, we come to you as the expert. Gio's been flipping coins, and he's in the lead with Who's with Herm.
I'm taking you to Vegas with me, Coach.
All right, Coach. So Denver controls its destiny for the #1 seed. What's the formula for the Broncos to lock up a home field advantage against a dangerous Charger squad?
Well, it's real simple. If you watch these guys play, it's all about their defense. Their defense is stifling, similar to Seattle's defense. They lead the league in sacks. They get after the quarterback. They got a young quarterback in themselves, but he's protected by this defense. This defense is really good. Offensively, they can generate some points. Quarterback is athletic, as we know, can run. But at the end of the day, they do this. They run the ball well offensively, and they play good defense. That's what travels this time of the year. We saw Seattle do that last night. Running game, good defense, that's what wins in the playoffs.
You know what else travels this time of the year? You. Because you're going to be in studio right here with us next weekend here in New York. We're so excited to see you.
I'm excited about coming to New York City, the Big Apple. You know, a long time ago, I was a coach in that city. I was just wondering if they invited me back.
Yeah, we know, Coach, because we're talking about the playoffs, right? And all that stuff.
We got to the playoffs a bunch.
Yes,
when
you
I was
did.
with that Jet organization, so it's okay. I think they'll invite me back.
We will welcome you back to New York. Also, we got to crown our Who's with Herm champion.
Yes.
We know who did not win. That's this guy right here. Coach, as always, looking forward to it. Can't wait to have you in New York. And we'll be right back here.
Happy New Year. I'll see y'all next week.
Happy New Year, Coach. We'll be right back.
And welcome back to GMA here. And the dramatic moments when police responded to a call on Christmas Day of a boy who fell through the ice. That boy now getting a chance to thank those who saved him. Incredible. ABC's Will Gans has this. It was an incredible reunion.
Yes, exactly right. The incident happened around 1 p.m. on Christmas Day, a time when so many kids are outside playing with some of the new toys that Santa dropped off the night before. But for one Long Island family, that Christmas Day dreamed turned into a nightmare when their 8-year-old fell through the ice on a local pond. Luckily, some holiday heroes were there to help.
They say that Christmas is love in action.
It's all right, bud.
And this is the heart-pounding moment 3 New York police officers proved that to be true.
We're gonna get to you.
Rushing into a frozen pond to save a young boy who had fallen through the ice. Suffolk County Police responding to an emergency call on Christmas Day. That 8-year-old Tavion was trapped in the freezing water. Body camera footage capturing the dramatic rescue.
Myself and my partner, Officer Rizzo, were able to get a life ring assembled and kind of try to throw it to Tavion, who was, in the water hanging onto the ice.
But when Tavion couldn't grab the life preserver,
Grab it.
Sergeant Michael Santillo springs into action, army crawling across the fragile ice.
I just went for it. I just went out, got to him. I broke through the ice, so I was completely submerged. I grabbed him, and then I waded back into shore and handed him off to the ambulance crew.
Tavion singing a Christmas song of his own as he's pulled onto shore and to safety.
I spoke with the mom. She was very thankful. She's a little emotional, but very thankful.
This Christmas miracle on the ice made even more special on Friday, when Tavion, who was uninjured, was reunited with his holiday heroes.
It was nice to see him in good spirits and completely unharmed and appreciative of what we did for him.
The third grader sharing this important message.
Don't go out on the ice.
Absolutely.
And after being evaluated at the hospital, Tavion was released in time to be home for Christmas dinner. And I am no Santa Claus, but something tells me those officers have already secured their spots on the nice list for next Christmas.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, what a relief for that family.
Absolutely.
And great advice at the end.
Completely.
Do not go on the ice.
Don't do it.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you so much for starting your day with us. And before we go, we'd like to wish our friend Janae a very happy birthday. Yes, we got a little something for you.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah.
Confetti cake.
Thank you, guys.
How you feeling on this birthday?
You know what, guys? I am so grateful. My husband, my kids, to get to do this job with you people. Like, seriously, exploding hearts. So great. Put the knife down.
I know. I didn't know what to do with this. Like,
Super grateful. Super grateful
Did you see
to
your
the viewers.
graphic back there?
Oh, thank you, guys.
We love you.
I love you guys.
Happy
Truly, to get to spend the weekends with you guys.
And you can catch more weekend coverage on ABC News Live. Have a great birthday.
Happy birthday, Janae.